țara noastră. Michael, can you hear me?
I can indeed. I hope you can hear me.
Great! Deci urmează, după cum ați înțeles, o prezentare în limba engleză. Vă rugăm să fiți cu noi, să ascultați cu atenție cele ce ne va comunica Michael. Michael, the floor is yours. I just want to mention, unfortunately, you cannot use your camera, so you will just share the screen with us. Please do so. And we are waiting forward for your presentation. Thank you. Great. It looks all right. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elena. And thank you everyone for being here today. Sadly, due to obvious reasons, I cannot be there in person. So I'm doing this from my home office today. But I do really, really appreciate your time today. So my name is Michiel de Lepper. I am a channel technical manager within McAfee. And today I will be taking a little bit of your time to talk about Unified Cloud Edge. Unified Cloud Edge is a solution to secure your environment all the way from the endpoints to the cloud. So in order to understand why we're doing this, we need to talk a little bit about market trends. So what we see in today's current environment is that there's a massive internet breakout. So everything becomes connected, everything becomes has an internet connection. And hooked into that is the fact that your data and your applications are shifting towards the cloud, which results in a mobile workforce that's not constrained within a traditional network. People are working from everywhere, within every device, and using any service. So when we look at a typical day in an organization, there's a number of questions that organizations ask themselves. The first one is, how do I protect against data loss at the endpoint? And how do I protect against web attacks? These are all relatively traditional questions, and organizations have been asking themselves this for years. But now with the shift towards cloud, there's a number of new questions that we need to ask ourselves. How many cloud services am I actually using? And do I have an insight if there's any risk attached to these, yes or no? How do I protect my data from custom cloud implications? And how do I protect data that's in sanctioned business application? So a sanctioned business application is an application that you supply to your employees and you sanctioned this, but just the fact that it's sanctioned doesn't mean that you don't need controls and visibility over the data that lives there. And lastly, how do I detect malicious activities in the cloud? Because the cloud will bypass all of your traditional controls. So when we boil all of this down, there's a number of key challenges that we see. So how do you as an organization increase your security posture without increasing complexity? And how do you ensure that you're protected while still at the same time support compliance initiatives, all the while your users and your data are everywhere? And lastly, when you're shifting to the cloud, you want to have those cloud benefits. So how do you actually enable cloud workspaces to increase productivity, but still at the very same time secure your sensitive data? And these are challenges that have been around for a while now. At McAfee, we saw this coming and we've been working towards enabling organizations to move towards the cloud. But we never expected it to go this fast. And this really is a sign of the times. 2020 has been a very strange year. I haven't been in the office since March. But when we look at the industry and organizations all around the world, COVID-19 has proven to be the ultimate cloud accelerator. Your employees are working
Michael, can you hear us? I think there is a short delay with the connection.
They can't go into the offices. Everyone is connecting into cloud. Well, we can secure web, no problem, right? We just put a web gateway in place. But that comes with its own set of problems. You're still left over with an inability to view cloud-to-cloud traffic, and you don't have any protection for your mobile workforce. Well, if you need to secure the cloud, we go to a CASB. Okay, well, a cloud access security broker, we get one of those, which is great for cloud usage, but it doesn't touch any of your on-premise infrastructure, so you're still left with a gap. And to close these gaps, you need to have multiple solutions, which creates complexity. And it brings with it a lot of IT admin overhead. So as an organization, this actually stops you from moving at the speed of the cloud. So we at McAfee think there's a solution to this. And it's not integration, it's convergence. So we take a secure web gateway, we take a CASB solution, and we take DLP capabilities. And instead of integrating these, which adds complexity, we converge these into a singular platform. Because when you converge something in a platform, you create simplicity. So one of the ways we are delivering on our device-to-cloud strategy is with McAfee's Unified Cloud Edge solution. So with UCE, Unified Cloud Edge, you get visibility, you get unified policies, you get data protection, threat prevention, and incident reporting. But you get it everywhere. You get it in the cloud, in and out of the enterprise and on devices. And this is very distinct from those siloed or point product approaches that organizations are traditionally adopting. So in order to highlight this a little bit better, I'd like to do a build-up if you want. So how this has evolved over time. So we start off with our traditional endpoint DLP, which is designed around keeping the data inside your perimeter. But there's a number of issues with this. Traditionally, this has been a very heavy end-user experience. And it only covers traffic originating from the endpoint. It depends on browsers and email client plugins, etc. And when you're moving to the cloud, you're doing the exact opposite of what a traditional legacy DLP solution is meant to do. You're willingly taking your sensitive data and moving it outside of your perimeter. So if we're moving to the cloud, we need a CASB. Okay, let's implement the CASB, everyone. Great stuff. However, a traditional CASB alone will only work for your sanctioned cloud applications. So it will give you sanctioned cloud DLP and email DLP capabilities. And it will help you to secure content created natively in the cloud. And it will help you with collaboration and sharing. But it will only work on a sanctioned application. And there's so much more cloud applications being used within your organization that you don't have visibility of. So for that, you need to integrate web. And once we start to add in a secure web gateway, you have visibility over all of the traffic, so you can lift out that cloud traffic and you can do analysis on that. And if you analyze that, you get risk scores. So you can put control points in place, both for applications and activity. You can restrict tenants, and you can finally start to implement zero-day web malware protection within the cloud. But all of these things will be managed separately, will be operating in silos. So it will take a lot of admin. And this is where UCE comes in, where Unified Cloud Edge comes in. Because when we converge these solutions together and give you a unified platform that operates as one, you massively increase the breadth of coverage. And you start to really optimize your control points. You get a better end user experience, which is always a good thing. You don't want to bog down your end users with security. And when you converge these solutions together, you actually get a net new security controls out of this. So UCE closes the gaps that I talked about earlier by converging the capabilities of CASB, DLP, and web. We unify them and reducing the administrative burden. So some of the benefits of this include a unified management of policies across all of the control points, yielding very consistent results. And it gives you the ability to review and respond to incidents in a very unified manner, so that you can clearly view how your sensitive data is being used from device all the way up to cloud. So no longer do you need a patchwork of products to actually achieve this. You get this all in one. So what I'd like to do now is dive a little bit deeper into this and walk through a number of use cases. Now, these are only 3 use cases. They touch on different aspects of UCE. But of course, it's a very comprehensive solution, so there's a lot more there. But I think these use cases are very representative. So first, I'd like to talk about shadow IT and what we call closed loop remediation. So in this particular case, you have a user who wants to upload data to a cloud storage. And when you look at web security, it cannot control all traffic, and it doesn't have a risk score. And a CASB on its own doesn't have the visibility on traffic without a proxy, which ends up with a manual proxy configuration, which isn't ideal. So in essence, IT has lost control. So in order to remediate this, what we do is we use closed loop remediation. And we do this between the CASB platform and the web proxy platform. So the web proxy provides all of the data to the CASB platform of what's flowing through it. From there, CASB will provide a shadow IT report, blocking all of the provide a shadow IT report, and that includes a risk score. From there, you start to create control policies within the CASB solution, blocking all of the cloud storage, except OneDrive for Business, which is your sanctioned IT application. And that is synced up back to the web proxy as an enforcement and control point. And this is what we call closed loop remediation, because they operate as one and feed off each other. So the net result of this is when a user tries to upload data, whenever the user tries to upload data to a non-sanctioned application, the user gets a block page and gets coached to go to the sanctioned application, and in this case, OneDrive for Business. So the user can upload data securely to your approved cloud storage where you have the controls. Because just the fact that you're going to the cloud doesn't mean that you don't need controls there. It's still your data. You still need to control your data. So this is exporting towards cloud storage. Now let's have a look at that whole device to cloud data protection chain that we have. Because previously there was only one use case. But let's assume we have a user who's very, very determined to export some data. The very first point, let's try a USB stick. But because we have those endpoint DLP capabilities integrated, this gets blocked. Okay, well, how about I use my personal cloud email? So I go online on my Gmail account, for instance, and I try to upload that file. And because we have that integration between the web proxy and the CASB, we detect this as well. And we share classifications across the board because we operate as a single platform. So we see that this is a classified document. So we give the user a warning. And we block this because it is sensitive data. But this user is smart. This user thinks, okay, I know we use OneDrive. I have a OneDrive account myself. So let's see. Why don't I upload this to my own OneDrive? So the user will access their personal OneDrive account and tries to upload the data there. But because you have tenant controls in place, the unified cloud edge solution can actually detect which Office 365 tenant is being used and will block the user from uploading sensitive data there. So the net result is that the user will need to use OneDrive for Business to upload data into the cloud, which is exactly where you want it to be, because this is where you have the controls. The user is allowed to share data out to the approved people if needed and if it adheres to your company policies. But anything else is blocked because this is what you define as a policy. So in the last two use cases and examples, we talked about users. And these are your employees. So you have a fair bit control over their systems. You can install agents and whatnot. But what about if you work together with vendors and suppliers and you collaborate with them and you share data? How do you actually protect against data coming from an unmanaged system? How do you ensure that this is safe? Because once you let a third party access your corporate cloud storage, you can't install an agent in their system. You can't force them to go on a VPN. But yet you still want to collaborate with them. So you leave yourself with a very high risk for infection into your corporate cloud storage. So there are ways to avoid this. And what we do is we leverage the identity provider to redirect traffic for scanning and control without the need for an agent. So the unmanaged device will try to access OneDrive for Business directly. But the identity provider that provides two-factor authentication, for instance, will see that request and will automatically redirect this towards the CASB platform. We then leverage our global threat intelligence to do a threat scan and make sure that there's nothing malicious in the data. And once the all clear is given, we can then securely upload this to OneDrive for Business, thus enabling you to actually collaborate with third-party vendors, but not just third-party vendors. Our employees nowadays are everywhere. They can do this from their own personal mobiles. They can work on personal devices. Yet still, you as an organization are ensured that you have the right countermeasures and securities in place without a massive administrative overhead. So when we look at McAfee's UCE, we cover data protection, we cover threat prevention, and governance and compliance. And we do all of this in a single, unified way. So we offer complete coverage from the device all the way to the cloud. Now, I work for McAfee, so you expect me to say this. Don't just take my words for it, right? Last week, Gartner released the 2020 Gartner Magic Quadrant. And we are the leaders in this space. So it's not just us saying this. Gardner agrees with us. So with that, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time. If you want to know more about this, please, you can visit www.mcafee.com/unifiedcloud. And of course, we also have a virtual booth here at the event. So I do encourage you to pop in, come over and talk to us. We're there for you. You can talk to us directly. We can show you a number of use cases as well live. And you can ask questions. So with that, thank you very much for your time today. And very importantly, please do all stay safe.
Thank you very much, Michiel. It was very interesting to have your presentation.